Budgeting is literally my favorite topic of all time. And so I was like, why not sit here and walk y'all through in a long form style video my budget for each month, how I do that for me and my husband's finances, and, just give you a little insight into my life. Hi, my name is Anna, and my husband's name is Ashton. I'm really big into pay transparency, and I'm really big into personal finance. So I handle our household finances. We have a shared bank account, so everything's pretty much shared. So I'll walk you through how our finances are, and then I'll give you insight into what I hope to spend in December. So I'm a social media specialist in higher ed. So I make $76,000 a year, and he's an air traffic controller, and he makes $95,000 base, but he gets a lot of extra from differentials such as working overnights and weekends and overtime and all this stuff. So like last year, his salary after everything was $120,000. So we're around a $200,000 household income around. Like I mentioned, our bank accounts are shared. However, we do have side personal accounts, which we always didn't have. I can make a whole separate video about this. When we originally got married, we had everything shared. And the difference between me and Ashton is he likes to spend a lot of money and I don't. And so that created a lot of friction, I would say, between us, because he felt the need to always ask me to spend something. And I didn't want him to feel like he had to ask me to do anything. And so now we kind of kept our marital like side credit union accounts, and we put a little personal fund money in those accounts that we can use at our own discretion. And I'll talk about how those is funded in the video. So this is the budget spreadsheet that I made for myself. I just use Excel. This has been had so many iterations over the years, but this is one I've used all of 2025 and I love it. And so like I mentioned before, Ashton's check is really dependent upon overtime and differentials and all that stuff. But before the month starts, I just put him at $2,400, which is typically what he makes if there's nothing extra added. If obviously something extra is added, then I go back and add it afterwards, but I started at the minimum. And I also try to always leave $500 from the previous month in the account for the next month. For December, we should have $9,522 in our account, hopefully. So let's get into it. So first up is housing. And just to let you know, I only do projected before the end of the month, and then I put in an actual at the end. So stay tuned for the end of December's budget recap. And I'll probably do a November budget recap, even though I didn't show you what the November budget was beforehand. Our biggest category is housing, probably like most people. So our mortgage is $2,450. It just went up. We also pay an extra $100 principal every month towards it to get that principal payment down. It's actually helped a lot. We've only owned our home 3 years, and we've already cut off a bunch of payments just adding that extra $100 a month. So that total is $2,550. We have solar panels, and so our energy bill is really low, but we pay Eversource about $17 a month. And Tesla kind of depends. It's kind of always like 60 to 70, so I kind of just budget for that. Internet is $75, and phone plan, I'm still on my dad's phone plan, and I just pay that portion for mine. And Ashton's still on his mother's phone plan, and she doesn't make him pay anything. So shout out to her. I do our budget by check one and check two because it just really boggled my mind before I did this half and half, because like just because it says you're gonna have $10,000 in your bank account that month doesn't mean you have that on December 2nd. You might not have that money to December 31st. So for the purposes of my brain, I break our budget down into check one and check two, because a lot of that money you won't see until the second half of the month. So I don't want to budget for money that I won't even have yet. Ashton's always making a random AutoZone store run, so I just kind of budget $100 extra for miscellaneous housing stuff because he's always going to the store to get it. And I don't want to input every single item onto the spreadsheet. Onto transportation. So we only use credit cards for gas, and we only use it for gas just to keep it open and keep our history up every month. And so our credit card bills are typically due at the beginning of each month for the last month. And so we usually spend about $400 between the both of us on gas, and that's always paid based on our credit cards at the beginning of each month. I don't have a car payment. I paid off my car years ago, but Ashton has a car payment, which is $375 a month. I hate living in Connecticut so much because I didn't even mention we're from Florida. We moved to Connecticut 3 years ago, and a lot of things are different, including the fact that they have car taxes. I didn't know what a car tax was. And so we have to pay $800 twice a year. And December, unfortunately, is that time of the month where they're going to send me a bill for $800 that I have to pay. And I don't know why. I don't know what it's going towards. I don't know anything. Yet here we are. So luckily in July, I didn't know that existed, so it hit me bad. So all year, the second half of the year, I've been preparing for this $800 payment. And so now it's here. And then our car insurance between our cars, and we have motorcycles as well, is $130. All right, personal care. So I go to therapy each week, which is $20. So I always budget $80 a month for that. We do date nights every other week, and so we budget $75 for each one. I honestly need to increase the amount. We either increase the amount or do less because we always go over. but I don't want to do less. So I think we should probably just increase it. But I'm not doing that this month. That's for 2026. And I just budget $30 for beauty and hair care. Like I mentioned earlier with Ashton's miscellaneous AutoZone trips, I hate adding individual items on here. So I just try to like, I don't really buy that much stuff that often, but just for the months that I do, I just like having it there as just like something I could just fill in rather than having to add Shea Moisture hair cream for $10. That just annoys me. Okay, Ashton and Anna money. This is what I was talking about before, our personal funds. So these are funded in two different ways. So Ashton gets overtime. And so he's allowed to keep his overtime payments. But there's a little caveat to this. And this is things that we've learned and grew over time. And so originally he was able to keep 100% of his overtime payments. However, in doing calculations, I realized that, and if you're thinking, why are you telling the internet this? I said, I'm very into pay transparency and what works best for my household. So I love talking about this. And so I realized that he has a car payment. I don't. He also has student loans, which is a different category that I'll get to in a second. And I don't have either one of those things. And so I felt like it was unfair that he was getting to keep 100% of this overtime money, which is about $300 per overtime. And he often gets it twice a month. So $600 when he had a lot more expenses than me. And so, and to be exact, like $700 more expenses to me. And so the new rule that we changed a couple months ago is that he gets 2/3 unless he only got one a month. So if he only got one overtime for the month, he gets to keep the $300. But if he's got any more than one, he gets to keep 2/3. And so what previously would have been $600 he got to keep for 2 overtimes, he now gets to keep $400. And so 200 just doesn't go towards me, it just goes towards the household funds. So I feel like that's a lot more fair way to go about it, in my opinion. Anna money. So I freelance. I do freelance like social. So like I said, I work in social media, freelance social media, graphic design. I don't seek it out that much because I'm lazy, but when it does come to me, I have like a kind of long-standing client that hits me up whenever. I get to keep that money. It happens pretty infrequently, but like I mentioned before, I don't really buy anything. I do get my nails done every 3 weeks and my nails will always stay done, so I use the money for that, but I don't buy anything. And so I'm kind of always just like perfectly fine with, like, I probably have like 200 always in my personal fund. That just is always plenty of money for me. But if it ever gets super low or his ever gets super low, we will fund it, through our house. If he doesn't have overtime for 3 months straight or something, which never happens. Or if I, didn't get freelance for a while, we are okay with being flexible and funding it ourselves through the household fund. Pets. So, if I can go back in time, I love my dog. I love my dog so much. But if I can go back in time, I don't know if I would get a dog. Dogs are very expensive. For this month, well, every month, his food is $60. He gets typically a bag a month, and his pet insurance is $70. And you're thinking, $130, that's not too shabby. It's not, but it's like boarding. Like November budget recap, you'll see we had to pay $500 to board him for traveling and stuff like that. So that's when the stuff really gets high, or he has an injury, which is why we got pet insurance to begin with. So think twice before you get a dog. I have a medical category that we really don't spend much, but $0 towards that. And then travel. We did a lot of traveling this year, and I really don't like when all the payments hit at once. And so we're going on a cruise next year, and the payment is $2,000 that's due in January. And I don't want to spend $2,000 on one thing in January. So in November, I'm putting $500 towards it. In December, I'm putting $500 towards it. And then in January, it'll just be $1,000 towards it. And that makes me just feel a lot better about that. So like I mentioned, Ashton has student loans, so that's $243 a month. He's a federal worker or the public loan forgiveness program, so they should be forgiven within 10 years. I think he's 4 years into that. So we just pay the minimum payment on that. I think it's like originally $20,000 in loans. Don't quote me. Food. Food is one that I struggle with. And so Ashton does mainly we do Costco for like the big things, and then I do like a regular grocery store for other things. And each Costco trip will always be between $200 to $400, depending on like how much we starved. And so I kind of budget $300 each check for food, but usually like whatever the big order will be bigger, if that makes sense. So $600 a month for groceries. I feel like we consistently go over that, so I should either increase it, or I don't know what we're spending $600 of food on, but I don't know, but that's something I struggle with. And then dining out. So I budget kind of $250 a month for eating out. This is separate than the date night fund, but it could also be included. So if like our date night activity costs $75, then I could be like, oh, we could spend some of the eating out money for, so it's kind of like a loose thing. Living in Connecticut, one sit down meal with like a drink or two will easily be $100+ versus from Florida, that's pretty like a lot to spend on a meal. And so I feel like anytime we go out to eat, it's $100. And so it's like, that doesn't really go that far, really. And then lunch money. So we get $100 from the main account for lunch money. If you need anywhere in that, use your personal funds for it. Gifts and donations. So we tie 10% of our checks to our church. And so I budget $440 for that each check. So $880 a month. Again, if Ashton gets paid more, then that increases. And we also do offering while we're in service. So we usually like $10 or so in offering. It's December, it's Christmas time. And so Christmas is a little weird for us because we don't like live at home anymore. At home, like there's no family here. And so like, it's not like we're all seeing them and like exchanging presents type of thing. So I feel like we don't do as many presents typically because we're just so far. Like it's mutual from both sides, you know? And so we kind of budgeted $200 or so for like family. I don't know. It's not really clear. Like, I don't know if my mom gives me something or I give her something. Like, I don't know. It's kind of really not that clear of a thing. And then we also use the household funds to gift each other gifts. And so I was kind of asking Ashton for this video, how much do you want to do? How much do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. So I was like, okay, we just do $250 total between the both of us. If we need more, use your personal funds. Subscriptions. And so we've been to YouTube TV for a while, mainly because of Sunday Ticket. I'm a big NFL football fan. However, if you had YouTube TV in the last couple of weeks, you knew that they cut ESPN, Disney were arguing, and they cut Disney cut from them. And so I got a Disney Plus subscription in the meantime, which is $30, which I'm actually really loving. I plan on switching over, even though I'm supposed to be boycotting, whatever. It's $30 versus $90. It's a big difference. YouTube TV got a $20 gift to say sorry or whatever, but I'm thinking about switching. The only issue with switching is I don't know if I'll lose Sunday Ticket or that price will increase. So I'm kind of navigating that. So this probably looked very different at the end of December. But I'm hoping we can switch over to Disney by itself so I can still watch all my things. So sorry. But overall, it's just so expensive. I've never spent that much on a subscription, but that's literally the only way besides DirecTV to watch NFL Sunday games. And so I don't know. It's hard navigating that. Play is an annoying category that we never start the month off having anything there. By the end of the month, we're like, how do we spend $500 in something? And Play could be going out to a game or going to a comedy show. All that stuff is in Play. That also could be date night and stuff like that. So there's nothing there. I promise you by the end of December, there'll be something there. And I can't justify right now why it will be there. But it's $0 for now. But that could easily be set $500 at the end of the month. And I'm like, But we're big into saving, but also we want to experience life. And so we try to do a little bit of both. So after all of that, plan to have $1,700 left at the end of the month. I try to put $1,000 in our high yield savings every month. Doesn't always happen realistically, but it seems like we'll be able to put it in at the end of the month or a little more, and then we can carry over $500 or a little bit more into January. So stay tuned for end of December budget. I'll also be making some other budgeting tips and blah, blah, blah videos in between. And I think I'll also post a November in the budget. Even though you didn't see the pre-budget for it, you could just see how much we spent in November. Because like I mentioned before, Ashton's air traffic controller and the government was shut down for all of October and most of November. And so he got a lot of back pay at the end of November. So that was really tough budgeting for because we didn't know how much he's going to get paid at the end. So November end of budget actually will be pretty juicy. But see you next time.